Now it's now it's on.
Now it's on.
So, welcome to Holy Comforter. This is the second year we've welcomed Robin Bullock here, and last year Steve Bachman was with him. Unfortunately, he's in Europe or somewhere right now, which is a sacrifice for whatever he does. There's a story behind that, but it is great that he brought Sue Richards with him tonight, and I understand the concerts they've had up until this evening have been exceptionally well received, and I know they're going to be well received here. Since we've changed the acoustics in this facility, events like this have been absolutely outstanding. And we haven't done a lot, but we do have some in the mill for 2019, including Emmylou Harris's band, who is going to be here. Phil Madeira and the rest of that group will be here at the end of January. So listen carefully tonight and you'll see why this isn't just a good place to worship, but this is just a good place, period. Robin, Sue, thank you for coming and enjoy the show.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you so much. Welcome to the party. I'm so glad you came out, and it is such a pleasure to be back here at Holy Comforter. My second year and Sue's first, as Father Jerry said. And delighted to have her along for the ride this time.
Lovely to be here.
Absolutely. And going to We've got a lot to celebrate this year, Sue and I, because not only are we celebrating the Christmas holiday season, but we're also celebrating the release of our first CD as a duo, which just came out last week. And so we'll be playing you some tunes from that along the way, mixed in with seasonal material, but we'll carry on with a couple more Christmas carols. These are both from France. The first one is called Il est né, He is born. Il est né le divin enfant, He is born, the divine child. And we'll follow it with another carol that started as a 16th century French dance tune, but these days we know it as the Christmas carol, Ding Dong Merrily on High. Thank you. Well, this was billed as a Celtic harp and guitar Christmas, so I suppose I should tell you what some of these other odd beasts I'm playing are. This instrument I have here is a bit of a musical hybrid that has found a home in the Celtic music world. And it goes by several different names. Those of you who were here last year saw it last year. It's got several different identities. A lot of people just call it an octave mandolin because the little brown one here is a mandolin. You're hearing that after a while, but this one's an octave lower, so octave mandolin. But in the world of Irish and Scottish music, where I first came across it, it answers to a couple of other names that are both borrowed from other instruments from other traditions. Some people call this a cittern, C-I-T-T-E-R-N, which was kind of a catch-all name during the Renaissance for instruments with wire strings in pairs or sometimes even tripled wire strings, played with a pick, like this one. And then some people call this a bouzouki, which is a Greek instrument. A true Greek bouzouki has a bowl-shaped back like a lute, slightly longer, skinnier neck. And so some people compound the confusion by calling this version of it an Irish bouzouki, which, I don't know, Just sounds like kind of an oxymoron somehow, but anyway. Myself, I don't much care. I use all the names pretty much interchangeably. I don't call it a bouzouki while I'm carrying it through an airport, but but other than that, any of those names will do. So we use it for another piece here. This is sort of a seasonal piece, I guess. Part of it is. This is. We like music that has stood the test of time. Golden oldies, you might say. So we'll play a golden oldie for you from the 14th century here. This is an Italian dance tune from the 14th century. If I can get this thing in tune. That I actually learned from Sue's group, Ensemble Galilei. So I don't know much about it. But it's called Saltarello. And from there we'll go into another French carol that you might recognize. Yeah, there we go. Like a mandolin, this instrument has paired strings, two strings very close together that you play as though they were one string, thereby cleverly combining the limitations of a four-string instrument with the inconvenience of an eight-string instrument. But I think that's close enough. So here we go, Saltarello and whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm playing a Celtic harp. You can tell it's Celtic because it's small. They come in all sizes, from little ones that you hold on your lap to slightly bigger than this. It has a curved front pillar, And it's a folk harp because the main way that it changes key is with these levers. There's a lever on every string. So I set the key at the beginning of the piece, and then hopefully don't have to change in the middle. Once in a while, you'll see me frantically, doing my levers. But the comparison is to the harps that you see in orchestras, which we call a pedal harp, because it has 7 pedals around the back of the harp, one for each note of the scale. So if you step on the C pedal, it controls all of the C's on the harp, and they go sharp or flat or whatever you need. Using your feet, your hands are free to keep on playing. So they're perfect for playing in orchestras, whereas this one never plays in orchestras. But we've been to a lot of pubs. We've had a lot of good sessions.
Yeah. They're really good for that.
It's great for Irish and Scottish music. So we're going to play a set of Scottish tunes. The first one is the Song of the Mermaid, and then we'll go into, what do you call it?
Well, it's called either the Mill-O or the Soldier's Return. It's often associated with a poem by Robert Burns.
And then the third tune in this set is The Old Woman of the Mill Dust.
Great title.
We've got kind of a thing. We've got the maiden and then
the old woman.
The old woman, right.
So there's a story there, but we're not sure what it is.
Yeah, we can make it up.
All right, 3 tunes from Scotland. Here we go. forgot to mention that all three of those they're not only Scottish tunes, they're Scottish bagpipe tunes, and we hope you appreciate the fact that we played them for you on harp and guitar instead. They're much less painful that way. And that was actually the opening track of our new CD, which is called Highland Ramble, in honor of not only the Highlands of Scotland, but the Highlands of North Carolina, where Sue and I both live now.
Right.
And we'll carry on with another tune from the same album, but this is definitely not from the Highlands of Scotland. This one is from Sweden, which you know more about than I do.
Yeah, this is a tune that I picked up from a friend. We were visiting Norway, and this one beautiful sunny day, warm day in June, we were sitting out on the porch, and she said, "You want to learn a new tune?" And she taught me this tune. It's called Farmor's Brudpolska. And a polska is a specific kind of, usually Swedish dance, danced in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And farmor refers to the father's mother, as in my grandmother on my father's side. And the Swedes distinguish, each grandparent. We have, so far means father, mor means mother. So we have farmor, which is your father's mother. We have farfar, father's father. Mor, which is your mother's mother. And morfar, which is your mother's father.
All of this lends itself to all kinds of great puns, but we don't need to go there.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
So, so sometimes people don't get the beat in this. They're not able to follow it. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
It won't sound like that, but that's where the rhythm is. And with this tune, I'll play mandolin for you on this tune. This mandolin I have here is a 1921 Gibson A model. I thought since this is such a special occasion tonight, I would bring the newest one I own. So here it is.
I have to say, I recorded this for Robin, one of our early rehearsals. We had just barely gotten to know each other after being apart for, 30 years?
Something like that, yeah.
And he came back the next week and had this down. Every beat, every note in place. It's actually pretty amazing.
Why, thank you.
each going to play a solo for you now. I'll start with a tune that I have loved since forever. When I first started playing harp, I started out on the pedal harp, the great big one. And the first 2 years of playing were just technique, 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 technique. You know, your hands have to move a very specific way. And then one Christmas, my teacher dug this out of her pile of music and gave it to me. And I started playing it and really got taken up with it. And, you know, the light kind of turned on. And I thought, yeah, this is what it's all about. This is really beautiful. So here it is, I Wonder As I Wander. I believe it's by John Jacob Niles.
Sue Richards. I have to follow that. Okay then. I'm going to play something off of my first Christmas album. Both of us individually have made Christmas recordings. We haven't done one together yet, but anything is possible. But in the meantime, we both have Christmas recordings of our own. I've done 2 on my own, and Sue has done several with, as I say, her group, Ensemble Galilei. And that last one is that on Surrounded by Angels? I believe it's your album. You should know.
It is, but I'm not on it.
Oh,
The rest of the group played it.
minor detail that.
I was very jealous.
Yeah, well, so we have to do it again, don't we? Anyway, this is a piece this is a Christmas carol that I grew up hearing because I was always, as a kid, I was always involved in choirs. I always sang in the church choir and whatever choirs were happening at school, and just, if there was a choral group, I was there. And inevitably, every December, whatever choir I was in, always sang Carol of the Bells. It was like a, choir standard. I'm sure it must be here too. And so later on, I thought it would be fun to arrange it for solo guitar. And you'll have noticed by now that I spend a fair amount of time frantically retuning my guitar between pieces. You may already start to be finding it annoying. You may be wondering why it's the guitar player and not the harp player who has to do all the tuning. But it's because I use a lot of altered tunings. There are a lot of different ways you can tune a guitar. And so for this piece, I actually found myself inventing a whole new tuning just to get the sound that I was hearing in my head. What I found was trying to find Carol of the Bells, trying to arrange Carol of the Bells for guitar. I tried it in lots of different keys. I tried every alternate tuning I knew, but although I could play the notes, I wasn't getting the sound. And in music, sometimes that's two different things. I was looking for the sound of church bells, and I was looking for the sound of a winter night, if a winter night made a sound. If a snowy winter night made a sound, that's the sound I was looking for. So finally, I tuned my guitar to this completely absurd open tuning. And although it makes absolutely no sense musically for any other song ever, anywhere, on the planet, in the known universe, it works for Carol of the Bells, and it gave me the sound I was looking for. So this is Carol of the Bells for drastically retuned solo guitar. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh,
Beautiful.
thank you. Oh, team back up again here and play you another one from the new Highland Ramble CD. And this is an Irish harp tune that goes back about 300 years. This was composed by one of our all-time favorites, the legendary blind Irish bard Turlough O'Carolan. Yeah, we got some Carolyn fans here? Yeah, very good, yes.
Good.
Turlough O'Carolan was born in Ireland in 1670, and he was blinded by smallpox at age 18, whereupon he took up the harp and became an itinerant harper and bard, and started composing tunes for his various patrons. He lived in a time in Irish history when the rich, the nobles, the knights and squires and gentry were entertained by wandering bards, wandering harpers, many of whom were blind, since it was one of the few things a blind person could do to make a living in 17th century Ireland. And there was a whole tradition of harpers and other bards, other poets and musicians wandering the country and being taken in by rich people in their castles and great houses. And Carolyn fell right into that, but what made him different and unique was the fact that he started composing tunes for his patrons, and it immediately became obvious that he had this unique genius for composing. His tunes are like equal parts the ancient Irish bardic harping tradition and the influence of Baroque music that he was hearing coming over from the continent.
Right.
And pretty much unique in musical history as far as I know. And he became so highly renowned during his lifetime that people started sharing his tunes, started writing them down and saving them, and now it's a measure of what high esteem he was held in, that all of the bards before Carolyn combined have left us maybe a couple dozen tunes that have survived to the present day. Carolyn, we've got over 200 of his tunes, and Sue and I just love playing them.
This is one of our favorites. It's
Absolutely.
really fun to play. I hope it's fun to listen to, but we're just having a great time
Yeah.
up here on stage.
And that's the important thing, really.
So this one is called Loftus Jones. And I always like to think of the personalities of the people that we're playing about. Every tune that almost all of his tunes are named after people. And I think the tunes describe the people. So this is Loftus Jones. We think he was a fun guy.
Both of us have recorded a lot of Carolyn's tunes over the years. And a few years ago, I gathered together a bunch of the ones that I had recorded and reissued them all together on one all Carolyn compilation album, which I creatively titled The Carolyn Collection. And the reason I mention it is because I'm particularly proud of that album because it's a benefit album. All of the profits from sales of the Carolyn Collection are being donated to a couple of animal rescue organizations around the Asheville area where we live. And in my own small, minor, obscure, folky way, it has raised a nice little chunk of change for them over the last few years. So I'm pretty happy about that. So it's nice to know. It's nice to know that music that's centuries old can still make a difference in today's world. And speaking of music that's centuries old, well, actually, this one is not as old as all that. This is another Christmas carol that you'll all be familiar with, Away in a Manger. But there are three different melodies to Away in a Manger that are commonly sung. One that's sung more often in England than here in America, and the one that we all know here in America. And a third one that is Scottish, that's also the melody to the song Flow Gently, Sweet Afton. So we couldn't decide which of these three melodies we liked best, so we just play all three of them. Not at the same time, but one right after the other. So Sue's going to start off with the English Away in a Manger, and I'll take over with the Scottish Away in a Manger, and we'll finish off with the American Away in a Manger. And we're playing this in the key of A, so we like to think we could call it Away in A major as well. Sorry, couldn't resist. Pick up the whatchamacallit again here, and play a big long set of tunes. The first one is another Christmas carol that you all know, and again, French in origin. I lived in France for 13 years, and while I was there, I came to learn that pretty much all the standard Christmas carols that we know in this country are in fact French. Or at least that's what they told me, so it must be true. But this one is actually a French carol. We know it as Angels We Have Heard on High. They know it as Les Anges dans nos campagnes, I believe. But it's the same thing. And Sue, being the restlessly creative Celtic musician that she is, decided to
Change it.
change it. Yes, that, in a word, yeah.
One day I was playing it and I thought, wow, wouldn't this make a great hornpipe? So we'll play it straight, and then I'll play it as a hornpipe. And from there, we'll go into a set of jigs. These are good old Irish jigs. The first one is Banish Misfortune. The second one is Out on the Ocean, and the third one is The Cliffs of Moher. Moher, a spectacular place in Ireland with cliffs that are, I don't know, guessing 300 feet high. They're really beautiful. And the music kind of describes them.
We've decided there must be an adventure story sort of implied in that particular set of three titles: Banished Misfortune, Out on the Ocean, The Cliffs of Moher. Something's going on there. We're not sure what. But, so Angels We Have Heard on High, and then a set of three great old Irish jigs. How are we doing here? Let's see. Oh, yeah, there we are. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it has been our very great pleasure and honor playing for you. Thank you once again
Thank
for
you.
inviting us
It's been
down
lovely
here.
being here.
And especially thank Father Jerry for opening the doors of this beautiful building, not only to us, but to other music events and other events that are coming your way in the months to come. And especially thank our buddy Fred for all his great work with the sound. So,
And thank you to all the people who make cookies.
yes. Yes, we probably played everything faster than usual tonight after all those brownies. Right. So just a quick word about CDs. If you would like to get your Christmas shopping done early this year, all you need to do is head for the narthex and take a right into the church office, where you will find our traveling mercantile set up. The new duo CD and lots of stuff individually, including Christmas albums, as I say. Also a mailing list, which we would love for you to sign up on, so you'll know where to be, or if you don't like what you're hearing, you'll know where not to be. And for those of you who play guitar, I've got some brochures in there about the guitar camp that I run every spring up in Maryland. So if you want to escape the hot weather of Florida in June and come up to Maryland and play some guitar on the banks of the C&O Canal in a beautiful setting in the woods, pick up a brochure. So we're going to wind up the evening in traditional fashion with a playing and singing of Silent Night. Now, Father Jerry mentioned that last year I was here with my other duo partner, Steve Boffman. The reason Steve is not here this year, other than to make room for Sue, which has been great. It's been wonderful having Sue along for the ride, and we hope to do this again too. But the reason Steve isn't doing the Christmas tour this year is because he's off to Austria, and the reason he's off to Austria is because this Christmas Eve marks the 200th anniversary of the composing of Silent Night. Christmas Eve, 1818, in a little village in Austria called Oberndorf, where on Christmas Eve of 1818, the town priest, the priest of a church called the St. Nicholas Church, was a man named Father Joseph Moore, who, besides being the village priest, was also a guitar player. Yeah, yay guitar players. And he had written a poem in honor of Christmas, and literally on Christmas Eve afternoon in 1818, he brought this poem to the church organist and choir master, a man named Franz Gruber, and asked him to just knock together a melody real quickly so they could sing this. They could sing this new song as part of the Christmas Eve midnight mass that night, which they did. And the only accompaniment was Father Moore's guitar. Some versions of the story say that was because the organ pipes had frozen, or the organ was somehow broken or inoperational, and nobody seems to know if that part of the story is true. But what is true is that Silent Night had its first performance Christmas Eve 1818 in this little village church in Oberndorf, and the accompaniment was guitar. So we guitar players, sorry Sue, we guitar players consider it a special part of our heritage. And I understand that Father Moore's guitar has been preserved and is actually on display in a museum in Oberndorf to this day. The guitar that Silent Night was first played on. So that's where Steve is, because in Oberndorf this Christmas Eve there's going to be a big celebration of the 200th anniversary of Silent Night, which as I understand it, is going to consist of hundreds and hundreds of people thronging the streets of Oberndorf, all singing Silent Night as loud as they can. Which somehow seems to miss the point to me. But Steve said he would take his banjo, so that's okay. Anyway, we're going to play it through a couple of times, and after we've done that, we'd love for you to join us in singing a few verses of it to take us home this evening. So here we go. Holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake, shepherds quake at the sound. Glory streams from heavenly hosts, sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. First verse again, a cappella. What do you think? Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in Thank you all. Merry Christmas. No. Since you've all proven yourselves to be such great singers, we'll ask you to sing another one with us here to wind up the evening.